Hello and welcome to the Victoria Penfold podcast, where we are discussing Wholeyfit, the Soul's Compass method, a 360 method that I created that includes therapy, nutrition and exercise, life coaching, and financial management. So before we go on, if you wouldn't mind, as usual, if you're watching on YouTube, if you could just scroll down and subscribe to the channel. It just helps me get feedback from what I'm putting, the content that I'm putting out, and also building the community that I aspire to build. So thank you very much. Okay, so far, over the last sort of 4 episodes, we've talked about the internal workings now of the therapy system, which is Shadowland. Of the nutrition and the exercise, which is ABC 123, and therapeutic personal training. And so far, this is all sort of mind and body working together. And the idea is once we kind of start to heal the body and via nutrition and exercise and doing the therapy alongside it, what happens is we become clearer and more mindful and more in a grounded place. And then what happens is space opens up as we kind of let go of our traumas for our true self to emerge, and the ability to be able to connect to our kind of higher self. Now, the next part is life coaching. Now, this is where now we've kind of aligned you, so your kind of higher purpose, that we can actually now start to create a compass for your soul's journey. So we kind of look at where you are now, and we create a plan for you to gradually move into, so then that would then become your life. So this is really about, like, this element is just planning, so you're not actually going to execute anything. So we can sometimes get in a bit of a rush, but this is really about just reflecting and working out exactly what it is that you want, and then creating a roadmap for a way for you to get there, and making sure every part of your life is covered for that to be able to happen. So things like support, family, finances, partnerships if you've got children, so whatever it may be, and creating a compass that's really practical and realistic, that's in line with your journey, your lifestyle, and not a timeline that kind of puts pressure on you. It's just like, okay, well, let's just be realistic. So yes, we have to be very soulful, but also it's really important, especially when you've suffered trauma, to have the safety of a structure and a routine. So kind of trying to move out of the one that you've got without a new one to go into can actually be quite dangerous. So it's almost, imagine like you've got to move house. You wouldn't just give up your home and then you have nowhere to go. So this is the same thing. This is your current life, and we're going to build a plan for you to move into, and then just slow and steady, a little bit like going to the gym and weight training. You're just going to chip away at it and do a little bit at a time, without the pressure of a timeline. And that's sort of quite important, because there's only so much within our control. So we can build a timeline, and it's very much within the control of what we want to do, but we unfortunately can't control what happens on the outside, which is why the plan is in place, but sometimes we kind of have to be flexible with the detail and the timeline and how to get there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through and talk about the internal workings of it and the structure, like I did with the other 3 elements. So you kind of get a feel for about how it will transpire and how it would work. So then if you get to a point where you're going to do this, whether it's but at home reading the book, or whether you're coming to a group, whether you're working with me one-to-one, or whether you're doing the practitioner training. So I will start with, so like the other 2, or in fact like the other 3 systems, it's very similar. We have 4 parts, which is what I call like the baskets. So the basket system. So there's 4 parts to the life coaching, and I'll go through each one of them, and then I will just explain what each of them is, and kind of build you a little bit of a map about how we get there. So the first thing that we would start doing, and this is really good for you just to kind of take notes, because even if you listen to this podcast, you might just say, well, actually, I quite like what she's doing there and I like what she's doing there. So you might just take little bits and pieces of actually what it is that you do want to do. So we would always start with visualisations. So it's a combination of just different guided visualizations that I would take you through, and we kind of access the unconscious and the soul, and really tapping into your heart space. And by this point, if you've done any of the other elements, you'll be quite familiar with the visualizations, because we use them like in the inner child work, even with the nutrition and with the exercise and what we do with the body. So one of the methods that I use, and they use this in psychosynthesis a lot, which is like the therapy training that I trained in, and it's called the ideal model. And what we do is that we actually use the visualizations to guide you in really deeply into your heart and what it is that your heart desires, and kind of accessing that higher self to kind of channel it through into your physical body, and just creating a space for you to really listen and tap into what it is that you want to do and what it is that you feel that your work is, and not sort of getting overwhelmed and thinking, oh, like I need to think about my whole life. And it could just be about what you just need to do right now, and that's all. And it's like really keeping you present, really keeping you grounded, and being quite realistic and practical as well as soulful along our journey. And the ideal model is, it's about creating like a vision board, and using the vision board and the images that you get from the visualizations or the words that you might get, and creating a vision board, and just literally just using images to put on this board, or individual words, what it is that you want. So at this point, it doesn't even have to make any sense. You're just going to use the images, create that board, stick it all on there, and just, it's almost like brain dumping. You know, when you put something on the paper and then you kind of have to organise it after, and that will come at a later stage. So this ideal model really is about just really tapping in and just really letting go of all barriers, all boundaries, all, oh, but this or but that, and I've got kids, or I can't do this anymore, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I don't have the money. It's releasing all of that. It's just what it is that you want to do. And you're just going to pop it on that paper, and if you're at home, you can just get some magazines. You can even go on the internet, find some images that represent that. And then as we go through the guided visualization, you'll be guided into that. And on a future podcast, I will do that exercise alone. So I would take you through the whole thing, so that you'll be able to do that, just that individual part. Then what we're then going to do is the idea is then to turn your dreams into a goal. And when we have a dream, it's very different to having a goal, because when we have those dreams, so you've put it on the vision board and you're like, I would just dream of doing that. And let's just say, for example, you've got a dream of publishing a book, and then from that book you want to create your life's work from it. And if it's a dream, it will just be in your head and it will just look so wonderful, and it's like, oh, I would just dream of doing that, and it's quite fantasy based and it just feels so lovely. And then when you then turn that dream into a goal, it looks a little bit different, because then what happens is you change the word into, rather than, oh, I've just got this dream of like publishing a book and creating my work from it, to actually I have a goal now this year to get my book published and use it as the basis for my work. And it's very different. It's very grounded. And then what I do is I use 6 steps to do this. Now, I learned this from Mel Robbins. So you might be familiar with her podcast, but if you're not, I highly recommend it. She's very practical and kind of gives you those tools that you need. So the 6 steps that she gave and what I learned, and now this is how I kind of do a lot of what I do. And if I've got a dream, and these are the steps I use to turn that dream into a goal. So we take everything on the vision board, and then you're going to choose each individual thing that you've done, and then you're going to apply the 6 steps, which are, so deciding what you want, and that's it. Just decide. And then once you've made that decision, it's like, okay, you said the words, you've made a decision, I want to publish that book, and I want to use that book as the foundations of my future work now from going forward. And then the step 2 is you're going to just write it down. It's a really simple step, but when you write something down, there's so much research out there and studies that have been done that says you are 80% more likely to achieve something if you write it down. 80%! That's just by getting that pen and just writing it on a bit of paper. So yes, you've done the visualization and you've put it on the vision board, and that's almost like the process of taking out of your brain onto a bit of paper what it is, because the reality is what's going on in your head is your imagination. So you're just putting your imagination onto that bit of paper. That still doesn't make it that's going to happen. To make it happen, we have to use these steps. I mean, you may have a different method, but these are the methods that I learned, and so far they are working, and they changed my life. So you decide what you want and you write it down. Then the third part is you're going to find the formula. And that basically means is whatever you want to do, there is a way to do it. So for example, if you want to be a bodybuilder and you want to go through that process, then the formula is you go and find a coach, and a coach will give you your meal plans, your exercise plans, and then he will take you through your prep, your show day, reverse you out of your diet. They have the formula. So you will go to that person and you will ask and get that formula. And it's the same with everything. If you want to publish a book, there is a way to do it. So when I wanted to publish my book, I found a writer's workshop. I went to the writer's workshop. They taught me how to put a book proposal together. And then I got that book proposal together, and then I'm then able to submit that book proposal to different publishing houses. But I only had to do it once. And then from writing the book, simultaneously, you write the content for your work that you want to do. So it's a little bit like what I'm doing. I wrote the book, the content of the courses and the workshops and the way I work one-to-one, it's also the book. So it's not dissimilar. So then step 4 is making it fun. So yes, you would like to publish a book. So you've got to find ways to make it fun, because it's really tough, like very tough. So for me, writing a book, it was so hard because I'm a very active person. I don't really like sitting down too much. I'm more like, I like moving around and doing things. And then you might see me sitting down for an hour for something to eat, if that, and a little bit later. So for me to have written a book, oh my God, I had to sit down for many hours in one day, and it really hurt my bum and it hurt my hamstrings, and it was awful. And the concentration and the focus that is needed, and also spending a lot of time alone to be able to do that. And I'm a people person. I like to be around people. Even if I'm being very quiet, I still like to know there's other human beings around. So it's difficult. And if you want to be a bodybuilder, I mean, it's hard doing the workouts. It's hard preparing everything. It's hard doing the meal plans. It's hard sticking to a particular schedule. Whatever it is that you want, it's really difficult. It's not easy at all. This part that you do now, imagining it, making the plan, it's really lovely. You think this is going to be so easy, but it's not. It's really not. So if you make it fun, then it just makes it easier. So and you've got someone to share your pain with. It's like being married. It's not some magical experience. It's magical because you've got somebody to share the difficulties with, and as well as the joys. And it's a little bit the same with any goal. So make it fun, and that can be in numerous ways. So make it fun for you, because everybody is different. So for one person, it might be that, oh, I'm just going to buy really nice outfits, or I'm going to join a group, or I'm going to find a writing buddy or a gym buddy. And you'll be surprised how much it helps. You know, like when something's difficult, you've got someone to share it with and to support you through it and hold you accountable. And then when the joy happens, they're the people you go to and you can share that joy with. And then you've got somebody to celebrate it with once it comes into a tangible thing within this universe. And that's really great to have. Okay, and then the fifth is do the reps. So basically, you just, once you've put that plan in place, you just have to do it. And even if you don't really feel like it, you just have to. And you have to trust the process, because it's like if you want to build muscle, you have to eat the food and you have to go to the gym consistently, and it's an everyday thing. Because even for example, you wouldn't necessarily go to the gym every day, and even if you have your days where you're resting, that is still part of it. So learning all these things is really quite important. And there might be times where you don't really feel like eating, or you want to eat too much, but you just have to do the reps, and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And once you've got the formula and the steps in place, you have to do it. And then if you don't do it, it's not going to happen, and then you'll only have yourself to blame. So it's really about just holding yourself accountable and having everything in place, and then just knowing that some days you're just not going to want to. Some days I don't want to shower, but here I am having to do that. So do the reps. The sixth part, the final part of the 6 steps, is do not quit. If you have a bad day, or a bad morning, or a bad afternoon, even a bad week, even a bad month, you do not quit and you do not give up. You just have to pick yourself up, brush yourself off, find a friend or a family member, talk it through with, and help you get back to your plan. And that's it. And you will only ever fail if you don't pick yourself back up and carry on again, you know. And sometimes you may have to change the direction, or the formula might have to change a little bit, but once you've made that decision, just don't quit. So those 6 again: decide what you want, write it down, find the formula, make it fun, do the reps, and do not quit. So that is how we then turn those dreams that is on that vision board into a goal of something that you can then manifest into something tangible into this world. And always remember that vision board is simply symbolic of your imagination. It's not real. It's only real when you carry on and do these next steps. Okay, so the next part is support. So then we will look at the support that you need. So, for example, if you decide, I want to be a doctor, there's going to be support that is needed to put that into place, and that support is going to be in the form of a university. And a little bit like the 6 steps, it's basically the formula part. So finding the formula, but the support part is really important. So knowing what support do I need to achieve that goal, and how is that going to contain me? So if it's being a doctor, you're going to need a university or a school. There's going to be a pathway for you to do that. Or like I say, like if you're publishing a book, that's what we do. Okay, then the next part, which is really the most important, I think, is what I call the week to view diary system. So what we do is we then take that vision board and those 6 steps, because now you're going to have the formula for everything that you want, and your little brain map is going to be wildly huge, and you might feel a little bit overwhelmed, like I'm not going to be able to do this and I'm not going to be able to commit to that. But then what we do is we take a week to view diary, and then we take a 1-year plan, and then your seasonal plan, then your month's plan, and then your weekly plan, and then your daily plan. So then what we do is we take everything that you want to do and we plan it out. So we then turn in all of these macronutrients into micronutrients. So your macro goals into micro goals. So that great big goal of publishing a book will just seem so far away and just ungraspable. But when you break it down into mini steps, then this is how you achieve it. So it could look something like the year to view diary. This year I'm going to publish my book. So for this year, that might mean I'm going to prepare my book proposal. So then that's the overall goal. And then each season, you might say, right, in this season, I'm just going to finish this part of the book and the book proposal. Then in this season, I'm going to finish this part of the book and the book proposal, and so on. Then for your month, you would just then look at your month and say, okay, well then I can spend 4 hours per week, for example, doing that. Okay. Then we come to the week to view diary. And then it's like, okay, so from that 4, I'm just going to spend 1 hour per day doing the writing. Okay. And then we break it down into the day. And it's like, okay, so today I'm spending 1 hour doing my writing. What time am I going to do it? And then you'll then find that that giant goal of writing a book, which is completely drowning you and overwhelming you, actually only needs 1 hour a day. And by the end of the year, I've got my book, and I've sent it off to publishers and book agents. So that is the purpose of the week to view diary. Now, there's also 4 steps that you follow that when you're creating a week to view diary, which is like, it's basically your schedule for the week, or the month, the year overall. And then the 4 steps that I create is always with longevity in mind and self-care at the forefront of what you're doing. So with the world that we live in, it can be easy to get lost in AI and heavily driven by work and addictions and getting lost in social media, whatever it is. But it's really about not losing contact with your humanness and with your family and your joy, because if you don't have those foundations to anchor you when you become the fabulous star that you're going to become, whatever that may mean for you, it is going to be your family and your friends and your joy that is going to keep you anchored, but also keep you full so that you can keep on going. Because if you get empty and depleted, you can run like that for long periods of time, but at some point the system, the body, is going to break. And also it doesn't mean that the damage is not being done whilst that is happening. And then one day you might wake up in 2-3 years time and you're so poorly that your body is going to force you to stop, but then you might have to spend years healing yourself from the damage that you've caused before you can even get back to this place. So this is really about longevity and self-care and looking after yourself first, so that you are of more use to other people. And then when you do become successful in whatever it is that you want to do, the only way you can be consistent and reliable and healthy is if you put yourself first. So that being said, it's then broken into 4 parts. So the first one is joy first, always joy. So when we do the planning of like the week, the month, the year, whatever, or the season, you're going to plan in all of your joy. So you're going to make a list of all of the things that you want to do and that you love to do. So it could be going to the theatre, it could be going to the gym, it could be going out for walks, hiking, holidays, travelling, spending time with your family and your loved ones, going to museums, whatever it is that you like to do. You're going to make a list of all of those things and all the experiences that you want to experience. And then also alongside that, you're going to write a list of all of the people in your life, all your family, all your friends, And then look at what it is that you want to do, and then look at your friends list and think, who do I want to share that with? And then start reaching out and putting it out there, like, so you can share it with someone. This is what I want to do this year. Is anyone in? Or would you like to do this with me? Or would that person like? And create little groups. And also, there might be even things that you want to do alone. Like, actually, I'm just going to go off for a sneaky little weekend on my own. Like, whatever it is, it's okay. But first and foremost, you put joy first. First of all, it keeps you grounded and anchored. But imagine a cup inside of you. What it does is it fills your cup up, so that then when you're with your clients, or when you're at work, or if you're caring for someone, your cup is full, and then all you're really doing is giving the overflow. And then the second part that we do is we put self-care into place. So this is, again, we can only give stuff away if we're well ourselves, and then we'll do it from a place of really being okay with it and not being depleted or not being unwell. And then in terms of self-care, whatever that looks like for you. So for example, it might be planning in your therapy sessions for the week, planning your personal trainer for the week. It might be that you're gonna have a massage once a month. It might be that you have an accountability buddy in form of like a life coach. Anything that it is required to keep you physically and mentally well, and making sure that those things are in place, and making sure that they're the things that you need, and everyone's going to be a little bit different. Then the next part is your reading and study time. So implementing time for you to read and study in a way that grows you. So if, for example, you want to be like you want to publish a book, there's still going to be an element of having to study and read about how to do that. So even if you go to a workshop, you may have to read a book alongside it, and there'll be like required reading. And the purpose of that reading is to take you through the process so that you're supported. Another way you can look at reading and self-care, or your study, is what is it that you need to do to make yourself better. So if you want to become like a therapist or a doctor or a personal trainer, you have to go on the course and sign yourself up. So then what you do with the Week to View diary is you plan that study time in. Again, how long do I need? How long is it going to take? And everybody is different. So somebody like, so for example, I'm dyslexic. So it takes me longer to study and to process information. So actually what, for example, my brother's very bright and very intellectual. What he does in 1.5 hours, it takes me about 3.5, 4. So it just takes me a little bit longer. So being very realistic and just really accepting who you are and how long things take. And also knowing that in the beginning, you're just going to have to kind of start, and you might learn along the way, oh, actually, I need a bit more time, or actually, I don't need as much time anymore. So then as the weeks go on, you can start to reduce that time or increase it as you need. So although you're going to set the plan, you may have to make a few adjustments as we go along. And then we put in work. So once all of that's in place, all your joy, something for you to look forward to, your self-care is in place, your reading and study is in place, and then you implement work. And then you then start to look at, well, how many hours a day do I want to work? How many days do I want to work? Do I want to work all year round? What holidays do I want to take? And how often do I want to take holidays? It's really your life, and you're going to plan it that way. And remember, at this stage, all we're doing is simply planning what it is that you want. There's no execution right now. It's just simply planning. And then you can really start to then look visually about, oh, wow, this is going to be my life. Then once you've put everything in place and you created that plan, you then just execute. So it's like you've got the plan, you've got everything done, and then you're like, right, I'm ready to do this. So the plan is in place for you to begin. Then the next and final part of it is, there's two the parts for the final, is affirmations and gratitude. Now, affirmations will be written out in line with your goal. Now, research and studies show that whatever the words you say to yourself, whether it's in here or out loud, is the world that you are going to manifest. So if you've created now the world that you want to live, you're then going to create affirmations that are in line with those goals on how you want your life to be. And you're going to write them out, and then you're going to stick them on a mirror, or you're going to stick them on the bathroom mirror, on the door, or in the car, wherever it is it's visible for you. And every day, once a day, you're going to look in the mirror and you are going to say those affirmations out loud. So it could be something like this: Victoria, I am in the process of writing my book this year. Well done. I earn £10,000 per month. I have a healthy, loving relationship. That's how they will sound. And at first you're going to feel like completely delirious and weird. But what happens is you're going to start to say them out loud. And yes, in the beginning, they're just going to be lies. Like, you get comfortable lying, people, because it's quite fun to kind of channel it into a healthy way. And you're going to have to just lie. And the reality is if you lie for long enough, you will believe your own lies. And then when you believe your own lies, then you become kind of like a magnet for those things to come to you. And just do it. It's really fun. And then you'll start to see the results yourself. And if you do it every day for 30 days, you'll start to notice a few changes. And then if you do it every day for 2 months, you're like, oh, okay, that I'm starting to feel different changes. And you'll start to really believe it. Then after 3 months, you'll suddenly realize that this is like, you feel it, it's happening on the outside, and then your inner and outer world start to kind of blend and become one. And then it's less different. So the kind of the inner and the outer world just match. So the affirmations are very important. Then the second last one is gratitude. Now, gratitude is so important because through this journey, it is tough. This is not easy by any means. And when you want to make changes, and when you want to make change, especially, like, we are wired to stay the same. The human brain doesn't like it. So when you try and change something in the beginning, it's like World War III happening in your brain and inside. Because imagine, like, when you're building muscle, you break down muscle fiber, and then when you then eat the food and you rest and you do all your eat all your protein, what happens is the muscle then reconnects and becomes stronger. And it's a little bit the same when you're doing like making these changes, and with affirmations, you're actually breaking down your belief system and your current neuro pathways and the neurotransmitters, which is painful. But then what happens is the more consistent you are, like with your affirmations and the keeping to your routine, what happens is new neuro pathways are created and they become stronger. And then eventually this new life will become stronger and stronger. And it's the only way to do it. But then what happens with gratitude is also one of the things that can happen in this process. You're going to experience lots of loss and grief and changing and difficulty. Could have financial difficulties, whether they're for the good or for the better or for the worst. And you can feel a little bit depressed as well, and that's why we do the therapy alongside it. But when you have affirmations, what happens is it gives you an opportunity to reflect on your day. I mean, like, I'm currently using something quite short. It's actually something I've also learnt from Mel Robbins quite recently. So I've always done affirmations, but I'm now just going to use it in a different way and try her little method this time. So I'll give you an example how gratitude is and what I'm going to use now. So one way is every week you can write an unsent, what we call an unsent letter to somebody. So you just write a letter to somebody in your life, and you just you express your gratitude to them, and like what it is that you're grateful for, and why they made you grateful, and why it makes a difference within your life. Now, you do not have to send this letter, but what you do is you go through a process of reflecting, and it makes you feel very light. It really brings you back into a heart space. It makes you feel more gentle, more kind, and more soft, and just a little bit more magical, to be perfectly honest. And when things feel a little bit dark and difficult, you're going to find glimmers in that, and start to think, okay, well, yes, things are difficult, but this is happening, and I've got this person in my life. So that's one way. And then the second step is, before bed, to sit down, and you're just going to write 3 things that you're grateful for from that day. So it's literally just spending maybe 5 or 10 minutes just sitting and just thinking, and go back to the beginning of your day and just run through it in your mind with your goal in mind, and just write 3 things that you are really grateful for that day. And don't go too deep. It could be that you go, do you know what? I was out all day and it was bloody raining, and I was cold and miserable. And when I got home, my house was lovely and warm. Really simple. Could be that somebody helped me with my writing today when I was struggling, something like that. But basically, every day you're just looking for those small glimmers. And this strategy and this method has actually been proven to improve heart health, cardiovascular heart health, and mental health. So it really is, first and foremost, the most important thing to do. So obviously from the beginning, it's not the top thing, because we're creating your life from that vision board. But it then becomes the first thing that's the most important as you are going to work through this plan, if that makes sense. So you start at the top of the bottom, and then we then go to the bottom and continue our way down. So gratitude is going to be one of the things that you do every day. And then a little third option as well is just making sure that you sprinkle what Mel called, I think, gratitude or magical gratitude dust in like your text groups. So if you're part of like a text chain, and like say you've got a family group or a work group, you can just pop in there, I'm really grateful for everything, thank you for doing this for me today, or even an individual. And just try like every now and then to be able to do that, just to let the other person know that you're grateful. And it really does make such a difference for your life. And that is basically how the life coaching element will work. And then obviously that once you've then got your plan in place, what I do on my own, if I've got one-to-one clients, is I kind of hold you through that. Now, different people will need different levels of support depending on how strong their foundations are. So again, like if you're one-to-one or within a group, or you're doing a practitioner training, once all of these things are in place, we then just kind of hold you within it and support you through the process. Because then at the end of every season, we're going to come back and repeat that process and look, is this still my goal? Okay, yes, this is still my goal. It might be that you don't need to change anything. But then during that end of season week, which is like what I call week 13, we then just review everything. What needs to stay the same? What needs to change? What did I achieve? And if you did achieve something, okay, do I need to achieve something more in line with that? Or can I now give some more time to something else? Or can I start something new? It's up to you. But that is kind of the process about how that it will work. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I hope that these little pointers help you today and give you more of a kind of understanding about how I'm going to work and how I do work and how the book is laid out. And I hope that you enjoy the book. And if you want to learn more about it, you can just also go onto my website, victoriapenfold.com, and also my Instagram at Wholeyfit. And then you'll get little tips from there each week as well. So have a lovely day, and I'll look forward to speaking with you next week, where we will then look at the internal working system of the Be the Change 1, 2, 3, which is money element. Thank you again for being here.